Hi everyone, my name is Jorjanna Hoover, and standing here today feels a lot different than it did last year. Last year I was involved behind the scenes. I helped support this event. I talked about awareness. I believed in the mission, but this year I'm standing here not as an organizer, but as someone whose life has been personally touched by women's heart health. And that changes everything. My story started freshman year of college, and if you can remember freshman year, you know how fragile that season can be for somebody. You're adjusting to a new place, new people, new expectations. You're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to look confident when inside you feel unsure. And I was already having a hard time adjusting. I felt overwhelmed. I felt homesick. I felt like everyone else had it figured out before I did. And then, in late September, I got really sick. I had the flu, I had strep, and I was exhausted. My body was completely run down, and after a doctor's visit and a few testing things, I was diagnosed with PVCs, premature ventricular contractions. I was 18 years old, 18, and I was being told that something wasn't functioning correctly in my heart. There's something deeply destabilizing about that. I already felt unstable emotionally, trying to adjust everything, and now my own body didn't feel steady either. I remember sitting in my dorm room trying to do homework and suddenly feeling my heart misfire over and over and over again. And when it's your heart, it doesn't feel minor. It feels terrifying because your heart is the one thing you assume will just work. There were nights I would lay awake in my bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling every single irregular beat. There were days I would sit in class pretending to focus when I was genuinely just scared. Scared it would get worse, scared no one would understand, scared I was overreacting. And the hardest part, I didn't look sick. I wasn't in a hospital. I wasn't fragile on the outside. So I kept showing up to things, but inside I felt really alone. And that's where Alpha Phi changed everything. During the season when I felt the smallest, these women showed up for me in the biggest ways. They sat on my bed when I was anxious. They listened when I spiraled. They didn't roll their eyes at me when I said I was scared. They didn't tell me I was being dramatic. They just stayed there. And when you're afraid of your own heartbeat, having people stay matters more than you can imagine. Fast forward to June of 2024. After dealing with frequent PVCs, I had my first cardiac ablation. An ablation is a procedure where doctors go into your heart and target the area causing the irregular rhythm. I went into that surgery so hopeful. I thought, this is it. Finally, I get to be normal again. But when I woke up and the irregular beats didn't stop, it felt like the ground dropped out from under me. The first ablation had failed. And that was one of my lowest emotional points in my life because it wasn't just a medical setback. It was me waking up and realizing I still couldn't trust my own body. It was lying awake at night again with my hand pressed against my chest, feeling every skipped beat and thinking, what if this is forever? After the failed surgery, we tried medication. And I remember feeling hopeful again, thinking maybe this would be the simpler answer, but instead of fixing the problem, the medication slowed my heart too much. My heart rate dropped to a dangerously low level, and that was a different kind of fear before, because my heart already felt chaotic and unpredictable, but now it felt like it might not even beat enough for me to wake up in the morning. There were moments where I felt dizzy, weak, unsteady, and I remember thinking, how is it possible that my heart can beat so fast and so slow at the same time? It felt like no matter what we tried, nothing was working. And emotionally, this was exhausting because every new attempt came with hope, and every setback came with disappointment. And I was so tired of being disappointed, and still, I didn't look sick. So I kept living, smiling, running, showing up, but underneath, I was exhausted from carrying fear. And through all of this, the failed surgery, the medication, my dropped heart rate, and the constant uncertainty, there were two people who carried a weight I don't think I fully understood at the time. My parents. When I was a freshman trying to act like I was fine, they could hear it in my voice when I wasn't. And when I told them it's probably nothing, they didn't settle for that answer. They researched, they asked questions I didn't know how to ask, they showed up to my appointments, and they sat in the waiting room pretending to be calm. And I don't think I realized then how scared they must have been. Because when something is wrong with your heart, it doesn't just affect you. It affects the people who love you. I can't even imagine what it felt like for them to hear the doctors talk about my heart, to watch their 18-year-old daughter lie in a hospital bed, to sign paperwork for procedures that carry risk, and I was scared for myself, but they were scared for their kid. And somehow, they never let me see the full weight of that fear. They were steady when I wasn't. They were strong when I felt small, and they reassured me, even when I'm sure they went home and worried a lot. There is something deeply humbling about realizing your parents would trade places with you in a second. And I know every time I was being wheeled into surgery, I wasn't the only one trying to be brave. They were too, and I truly could not have walked through any of this without them. I love y'all. Then came Christmas Eve, 2024. While most families were celebrating, I was in a hospital gown, preparing for my second ablation, and I remember thinking, this isn't how Christmas is supposed to look. I remember hugging my family a little tired, and I remember praying quietly that this would finally be the one, because I didn't know how much more uncertainty I could handle. And when I woke up from the surgery, I didn't know it yet, but in the weeks that followed, something changed. The flutters were quiet, the skip beats became rare, and for the first time in years, I could lay in my bed and felt my heart beat right. Just steady, no chaos, no fear, and I cried because I had forgotten what that felt like. And I'm standing here today because that second surgery worked, but I'm also standing here because I was heard, because doctors took my symptoms seriously, because research exists that understands women's hearts. And here's why that matters. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in women, not cancer, heart disease. And for decades, research has been centered on men. Women present differently. Our symptoms are subtle, more easily dismissed, more likely to be labeled as anxiety or drama. If I had kept dismissing myself, and if I had decided I was being dramatic, and if I had ignored the whispers of my own body, my story might look completely different. Research saves lives. Funding matters. Awareness matters. Because there is another freshman girl somewhere who will get really sick and whose body will change, and she will feel her heart misfire and wonder if she's crazy. And she deserves answers. She deserves to be believed. She deserves research that includes her. Red dress isn't just about wearing red. It's about protecting women who don't even know they need protecting yet. It's about making sure no woman feels alone in their room at 18, scared of their own heartbeat. Your heart matters. When it whispers, listen. When something feels off, advocate for yourself and support the research that ensures women's symptoms are studied, understood, and treated properly. Because heart disease doesn't have an age requirement, but awareness can change the ending. Thank you.